topic for our semifinal. And for this morning, we will be talking about lists. No, serve as our new or our data structure na pagkahisgutan this morning. So what is this list all about, so on and so forth. So array works or arrays work well for unordered sequences. No? So I already discussed about array before, and the way how we use array by giving in by using its methods and functions really give us an idea on even the other data structure will work, no? It will serve as array is the base, mga base reference for other data structure. So arrays work well for unordered sequences and even for ordered sequences if they don't change much. But if you want to maintain an ordered list that allows quick insertions and deletions, you should use a list data structure. So why kaha nga murag gihatag emphasize or emphasis ang ato ang list data structure. So later you will find out how flexible list compared to array. So array alone. So in our discussion this morning, these are the highlights, no? List can maintain the order of the elements. List can manipulate elements. List can identify indices, so the same with the array. List can handle insertion and deletion using indices. So these are the highlights. So we expect that we will be able to encounter or meet this one in our discussion. So the intended learning outcomes for you guys is for you to familiarize the codes or syntax on applying lists, know how list data structure works, and to get familiar with list data structure. So don't mind this activity 4 because this was given on my previous batch. So I've just simply posted this one in our classroom, no, for your practices and serve as my assessment for you. So list ADT, in real life, objects often appear in simple lists. For example, companies may maintain a list of employees. Banks may keep a list of bank accounts. A person may keep a list of things to do. So there are a lot of things we can compare or we can make use of lists, no, in our daily basis. Not just as the individual routine, but also in organizational or company routines. So there are possible list implementation further data structures. So a list abstract data type or ADT allows us to access any of its elements at any time, as well as insert or remove elements anywhere in the list at any time. So given that privilege for using this kind of data structure in where we can insert element whenever we wanted, we can also access elements in our list or remove or delete, so on and so forth. So we will have some visual representation for that for each of the methods or function for our list para masabtan yun siya. So the list will automatically shift the elements around the memory to make the needed room or reduce the unused space. So kung balikan na to ang array class, array has a default size. If atong i-declare sa atong size sa atong array kay 5, therefore array can only store 5 elements. Unlike in our list, it will keep on expanding the size of our list every time we added new element. And it is one advantage for a list because it is capable to expand its size in compared to array. And we didn't need to declare the size for our list. We just simply add elements, so on and so forth, then it will adjust its size. No? It serves as like we have unlimited storage when we use list because every element we inserted, it will keep adding container, so on and so forth for our list to be added. Okay? So, the list will automatically shift the elements around in the memory to make the needed room or reduce the unused space. So this is it. The general list is the most flexible kind of list in terms of its capabilities. So it has a lot of things, no? Flexible siya. You can perform whatever execution you wanted to perform because there are multiple supported methods or functions that we can use for lists. So there, we have here a visual representation, no? So we have an Kwandani also class. A list is an abstract data type that implements an ordered collection of values where the same value may occur more than once. So we use a general list whenever we have elements coming in and being removed in a random order. So we can absolutely remove elements and in a random state, no? By simply using the index number. So I know or I assume you are fully aware about index number and the elements, no? For example, when we have a shelf of library books, we may need to remove a book from anywhere on the shelf. And we may insert books back into their proper location when they are returned. So it's just simply like you are checking the book inside the shelf and trying to look if that is actually the book and you can put it back. So the same thing happened in our list. So we can check an element, we can replace an element, or even we can get or remove. No, we can remove an element from out of our list. So the elements in a general list are stored in a particular position in the list, as with arrays. Elements in the general list are accessed according to their index position in the list. So, as I mentioned, I assume that all of you already know what is an index number or index positioning. So it always starts with a 0, and this index will serve as our serve as an ID number or address number to locate our elements in our list. No? So I hope that's clear. So questions so far before we will be having these methods that we can apply for lists. Questions? Wala? Type 1 if no question. And make use of our raise hand button if you have some. Okay, na si Sir Locher Danny ga-observe. Oh, Sir Locher, very good kaya ako mga student. See, they are participating. They're executing the things I said. Give me a highest score, ha? So, thank you, class. So now, we will be talking each of the methods or function for our list. Okay? Add. No? There are the basic methods for inserting, removing, accessing, and modifying items from a list are as follows. So, ayan na. So we have here multiple methods. No? We have a method for insertion. We have a method for removing and accessing or modifying elements in our list. And first method or function here is the add. Add with a parameters. So what is this parameters all about? Kanang inside sa to ang parentheses. This will fulfill all the execution proper of our method class. So kailangan kung natay parameters, specify yun nato siya. Ato yung i-fulfill ang requirements sa parameters. Kung ang add na siya tuwa ka parameters, make sure you also provide two equivalent value. The first one is for the index, and the second one is for your object or element. No? So this method will add element in our list. Always remember that. So we have a description here. Insert object X. This object X refers to whatever element you will be inserting to our list. At position index in the list. So index will be also specified in our parameter or our method. Objects at positions index plus 1 through n minus 1 move to the right by 1 position, increasing the size of the list by 1. So this is how flexible list is compared to array. So as I mentioned, it will also expand the size, or it will also add the size for our container in order for our new added element to be inserted. So it is very flexible and useful as well. So by looking at this example here, notice this, Alice, unsa maning Alice, this is our object being created. So later natin another example for that. So kani siya, depende na sa inyong naming convention or sa pag-declare sa inyong program. Ang kaning Alice, object ni siya class. Pwede niyo siya lahi nga name. Pwede na siya list, pwede na siya my list, pwede na siya whatever name you wanted, as long as ma-identify niyo siya nga list na siya. Okay, natin example na later as a whole program. So a list, which is the object that add, and the parameters of our add method, which has 2, meaning index 2, and we will try to insert value or object x. So try to look at here in our illustration. Before, we have 23, 15, 9, 12, 37, and 83. Don't mind this that because that represents a tuple. And a tuple means that there are more value but didn't specify in our example. So we just simply focus with the value that we can visibly see here. So by default, mo ni siya ang value, but since we invoke add, x under index 2, supposedly ang index 2 unta kasi 9, but ato man siyang i-specify nga we will be adding x in our index 2, so automatically it will be stored here, it will be added here or inserted here, then it will move 9 to index 3. It will adjust. So that is how useful list is. Once you specify the index number, whatever index number or value is currently under that index, it will adjust because it will give courtesy to the newly inserted element. Okay? Okay? So, am I clear, class? Sorry kay class ha. Don't have place to kuan manggod class.
Okay ra sir.
Utuho na lang nako ni ha.
Okay,
Utuho na
so-
nako ni akong DDR isa.
Pero away lang na. Okay. So that is for our add methods. Always fulfill the parameters of our methods class. No? So that becomes our output now. So before and after. So it's so very simple to think that add the index and the object and it will do this output as you wish. No? Okay. If we're done with add, then obviously we can also perform remove. So if we can insert element, we can also remove elements from our list. So for our remove class, we have here directly a single parameter that will fulfill this command, which is the index number. No? Remove and return the object at position index in the list. So whatever will be your declared index number, it will identify the element, then that element will get removed from or will be removed from our list. Object at position index plus 1 to n1, this means that the n1 will be adjusted, will be adjusted its size so that the removed element will no longer exist. Aside from no longer exist, the current container that holds this element will be substituted by the other element. So lantawan nato ni siya. Example, a list that removes 2 will return 9. So try to notice this one. Before 23, 15, 9, 12, 37, and 83. And after executing this method class, try to look at 9 gets removed, but 12 replace or take over the index number of 9. So this is now the output, and try to notice our N1 will also adjust its size because there is an element being removed from our list. So katungod na an matag isa ka element, mag-adjust po dapat ang iyang size. So dapat just and right ra gyud ang iyang size kung pila ra ka elements ang na-insert sa ato ang list. So question so far? Question so far, class? Do you have any question on this part? Kaning remove? So, do you have anything to ask? So we have the add and the remove so far. And add have 2 parameters and remove only has 1 parameter. So is it clear? Okay, no questions? So according to Maria Estela Larios, no question at all or none? Okay, thank you. Sige, if no question, let's proceed. So we're done with the add, we are done with the remove. Now, we will have the set. I know you can directly learn from the changes made in our illustration, but to give an emphasis or further definition or example, so I'll be keep on explaining. No? So in our set, we have 2 parameters. First is the index. The second one is the object or the element. No? So the goal of this method is to, or the function of this method is to replace the object at position index in the list with the new object X. Objects at all other positions remain in their original form. So that means that the only affected element under that index will be replaced by a new value or new element, and the other are still the same. No? So example, a list that set 2 is our index, and X will do this. So let's find out here in our visual representation. So before, this is our value. As you notice, under in index 2, we have the element 9. But when we use set, it changed its value into, instead of 9, it replaced 9 with X, and this will be now our new elements inside our list. So sa yun na ka-easy set, no? So I guess that's clear. So we're done with the add, we're done with the remove, we're done with the set. Now let's proceed with the get. Get only has 1 index. And for our get, it returns the object at position index in the list. The list is not changed in any way. So serve as ang list class, bali mura lang niya gina-check kung kinsa ang element under that index. So kaning index nga mga 0, 1, 2, 3 mo ni sa itong index sila sa kasi nanguban na confused. So ato mag-specify na ni get, no? A list that get 2 will return 9. List. So we just simply check, but it didn't in checking, no, wala siyang give you kinsa ang element aning index 2. And with that declaration of our syntax, we find out that 9 is the element under index 2. So that is for get. Get, no, forget. For that is for the get method. So next is the size. No? This will return the number of elements in the list. So as I mentioned, by default, we no longer need to declare the size of this list because we can unlimitedly or we can insert elements unlimited, no? Unlimited elements in our list. So whatever or how many elements you will be inserting on our list. In order for us to know the current number of elements inside our list, we can make use of the size method. So if we invoke this method, it will return how many elements inside our list. So muna ang purpose sa size, and size doesn't have any value in its parameter. So wala lang siya. Ano lang siya. So simple. Clear, on the other hand, class, will remove all elements from the list. So it means that if you have a lots of value inside your list, if you invoke this method or command, it will remove all the elements. So mawala tanang elements sa atong list. Okay? But we have additional methods. Before we proceed with our additional methods, may I ask everyone if you have any questions? Question, type 1 if you don't have any question, and click that button there, the raise hand button, if you have some.
Okay. So,
Okay, nice question si Miss Maria Estela Larios. Nadi kay question, sir. Sa remove ba, nawala lagi ang index. So let's visit remove. Okay, great. Good observation, Miss good observation with Miss Who's that? Miss Estela Larios. Absolutely, kani siyang nasayop lang na siya, guys. Nasayop lang na siya o kanang butang. Nakulangan nag-isa ka box. Supposedly, ang N1 naman unta ang mag-adjust. So, nana siya 3 dani. Sige, ato, sa umay nato, no? Pag-edit. Well, nani siya isa ka box pa dani, class? Ngana. Which is, ang emphasize lang daan ni Miss Maria Estela, it is because kaning that manggod dani, it means tuples. Wala na to na identify unsa ang mga value, but there are multiple values or there are multiple elements. So wala siya na highlight na kaning that. Supposedly kaning that mo na ni ang 3. So kung ato ni siyang atong i-whiteboard, nani siya guys, gamitan ato whiteboard. So kanang that magud tuples na siya, dagan kina siya, wala na specify nga mga elements. So ato lang i-present class for the sake of everyone in our class. Sige, atong asa naman tong whiteboard? Break yung whiteboard, nagad. Wala, asa to? Basta nga to siya. So, sige lang, kaya ang tuple manggod, if you didn't encounter tuple, well, obviously, kanang ma-confuse yun. But I guess, at some point, where kabalo man siguro pud mo sa tuple. Okay, Nara. So, let's say, kana siya ng mga elements. So, let's copy ko na lang para itong size. Zero. Una tong first index, class. 1, 2, 3. Tapos, ang katuwang next nato is let's say mo ni siya ang katong part nga walay index because this is dot undefined ang elements, no? But that really indicates nga na siya element, wala lang na represent og kadaghan kay daghan na siya sulod. Let's say we have here A, B, alphabet atong himuong elements kaya aron di malibog. Tapos na siya daghan that na. That means A, B, C, D, E, F up to, let's say, naday ta isa ka box which is our, or duha ka box which is our saglit. Ay, sorry. Nalilita atong first word. So, nasa the intermission number ka dyan. Ala, dili siya mo ano kay. Ito siya bring forward. Ayan. So, si X and si Z. Ayan. So, ano siya, class? So, meaning, kaning topos dani, those are the remaining letters in the alphabets nga wala na nato specify because daghan nakaayon, no? But still, nag-exist na sila. But don't worry, in our program, or in our execution, dili na ko siyang anion. Dapat naka-specify yun siya, no? Kaya lisod man mag-wild guess lang tapamente. So, katong nga ganina, nagpag-remove na to kay C. Let's say, na-remove si C. No, nawala si C. So, ay. Hala, no. Ayun. So, let's say, for example, wala ko na to ni si C. No? Instead of C, hindi mo na siyang C, D. I mean, ano nga whiteboard ay. So basta let's say for example class, ako na lang ning anuhan, markan o wala na ni si si C. Wala na na siya, X na siya dana. Wala na siya. And our new index number for D is becomes 2. So kani siya, basta wala na siya dana. Let's assume wala na ng box ng letter C. So this will become 2 now. And then, kung sa magaling ang letter na sunod sa D, muna to siya ang nasa index 3. So nga na siya. So whatever letter will be right after D will be the under index 3. So that's what happened in our example earlier. Tungod dili magud niya ma-identify kung kinsa ang element kay tuple man siya, but this example since sequence man atong gigamit, so we can easily identify that next on D is E. No, so si E bali ang nasa index 3. So nga na ang tuple class, pero di na to siya gamiton sa tuang pag-program kay ano siya and confusing, no? So for that example, mo na to siya ang ato ang explanation for the remove. Does it help you to understand, guys? Or na-confused no sa mood? Ha? Nasabtan? Okay, very good. Basta nga na ang representation sa tuples. That's why that things happen to our kaning example, no? Walay index 3 because we don't know the next, pero naagyo na siya dapat. So where are we? We will be having our additional methods. Pelikula, you guys. For a while sa class. Okay. Lunchtime naman dahil class, no? Sorry. Sige. Let's continue with our discussion. Ato na ni siyang i-boost ang atong pag-explain kaya moment tagdali para makakaon tanan. I guess ni utto naman siguro pud mo na. So next is we have additional methods. In our additional methods, as you notice, we have add but our parameter is only one. Parameter only, no? We only have one compared to our previous method, which is we have two parameters for our add, no? Add. So earlier, I introduced you the add with two parameters, specifying the index and the object or the element. Next, here is the add only the object without specifying our index. Now, insert object X at the end of the list, increasing the size of the list by 1. So, as I mentioned, the flexibility of the list will expand the size every time we insert an element. So, without specifying the index, directly adding element in our list, it will automatically add it at the last part of the list, no? The last container of our list. So, we have here a syntax, a list that add, and we specify the object or the element nga itong i-add sa list. So, try to look at our before. So, before, wala pa tayo element after sa 83. But right after we inserted it, so as you notice, we added X after 83. Then it will expand as well the size of our list. So that is the difference, no? That is the difference of add methods with two, the previous one with two parameters which we can choose in which index, and the second one which is didn't specifying the index, but by default it will add to the end part of our list container. Okay? So, right after that, we have also remove. Ang remove na to kaganina is we make use of remove specifying the index. But we have also remove specifying the object. No? So, so remove the first occurrence of the X from the list, assuring X was found at position I. So this I will hold the value of our executed object with its assigned element. So ako na siyang explain. Then object at the position I plus 1 through n minus 1, remove the left by 1 position, decreasing the size of the list by 1. So all over again, guys, when we remove element, expect that our size will also adjust. No? It will also, we also decrease the size of our element, or I mean our list. No? Kung 2 ka elements ang ninyong i-remove, so 2 put ka adjustment ang may tabo sa tong size. So, in this declaration here, we created object, no, with a data type integer. X is our object now, which is equals to the new integer. Inside our parentheses, we have here the element value, which is 9. So, we have initially an idea that we will be trying to remove element 9 in our list, no? A list that remove X will do this. So let's try to observe the execution. So before our elements, we have here 23 under index 0, 15 under index 1, 9 under index 2, and 12 under index 3, so on and so forth. So since we specified 9, and we will be removing it, no? We will be removing it. So therefore, upon executing X, as we know that this is the object holds the element 9, we can say that we will be removing 9 element, or the element 9, no, the element value 9 in our list. So try to look at the result now, the current result. Nawala si 9 and 12 take over the position of 9. So instead si 12 from index 3, it will adjust, it will take over the index number of the newly or the currently removed element. So name mo ng index 2, si 12. So ana ang adjustment sa list class. And also the size, ma-reduce po siya. So far, do you have any questions before we proceed with additional methods? Question class. Type 1 if you don't have any question. I know, gipanggutom na po mo. Gipanggutom na sa ako. Sige. Okay, no questions at all. So let's directly proceed with our next method, which is the index of. Index of specifying the object. So it just like simply asking question, what is the index of this element? Or what is the index number of this value inside your list? Kung ana siya class. So return the position of the first occurrence of the object X in the list. So we have here an object creation na naman class, which we create an object X as our integer because our list composed of integer value. So equals new integer 9. So we will be using or invoking the index of method. So as we know that 9, X has a value of 9 as we initialize it. So therefore, index of X, which is 9, will be under 2. No? So element 9 has an index number of 2. That's why this is the output now. Okay? So next is empty. You are going to ask your program again by invoking this method. You are trying to ask, is my list empty or not? So there are only two possible answers for that. True, if the number of element in the list is zeros, meaning kung walay sulod ang atong element, or our list rather, walay sulod elements ang ato ang list, that means it is empty. Otherwise, return false. So you can also specify it by having this syntax, no? Return a list size. So you can also make use of the size which is equal to 0. So meaning kung atong size is equal to 0, that is also an indicator that our list is empty. So pwede na siya two-way by using SMT is empty method or by using the size, putting a condition for it. And lastly, contains object X. So contains object X. Return true if X is contained in the list, otherwise return false. So you are also asking question in your program class. Like, is it ako ang list, na ba siya yung ani nga value? Is it akong list, na ba siya yung ani nga element? So it keeps on checking the elements in your list. No? So you have here a program code for a for loop. Sa atong for loop class, by default, we initialize it like integer I equals to 0. Why is it 0? Because it's our index number starts with 0. Assume that we are still referring to this. No? Assume that we are still referring to these elements. So I equals to 0 by default because 0 nga atong index nag-start is 0 less than the size of our element. As we notice, 2, 4, 6, 7. So, is 0 less than 7? True. So, dani siya mo proceed sa if, layo pa tayo. If a list get, so we are also invoking get. So, we have multiple combinations in our program class, no? Natay size, natay get. So, the same lang siya sa aning method nga itong gamiton. Contains, mas easier na lang siguro kung i-contains object na lang. Okay, ang yang program execution is the same as this in our for loop. So, nag-true man ta kay 0 is less than the size of our list man kay you know that we have 7. Let's say 7 lang ni siya. Di na ito ni-count ni mga pila ni kabuktat tari. No? 2, 4, 6, 7 container. So 0 is less than 7, which is true. Then it will proceed here to check or validate again the condition. A list get 1. So I. A list that get I. So our I is currently 0. Is 0 equals to X. So whatever will be the value of X. Let's say for example, our X nga itong ginapangita or our value nga itong ginapangita sa itong element or sa itong list kay si 15. Is 0 equals, or what's man I thought, once is naa sa index 0, which is 23. So is 23 equals 15? No, because obviously under the index 0 is 23 and 23 is not equivalent to 15. So return true kung sakto siya and false mo return siya pabalik sa taas. So, mo-execute na po siya pataas by the use of this I++. So, mag-increment na nga to ang index class. So, may tawo na ni na po nga next nga loop, and in is equals to 1 na ni siya. Kaya tungod nag-increment man ta right after our execution. So, 1 na ni siya is 1 less than the size, true. Tungod kay 7 na nga tong size tong elements sa tong list. If a list that get 1, so as we know that 1 is 15 equals to x, which is also 15 ang ato ang imong example. So therefore, it will return true and the program will automatically terminated, no? Pag ma-return true na siya. Kung makita na niya ang elements, pwede din siya nga magbutang kag output dahil na element found in index number 1 or true, the element is inside the list. Pwede siyang ana. False dayon if the element is not yet found or element is not in the list. So it depends on how you program your project, no, or your code, how you construct your code upon this. But instead of doing this looping, you can have this one because it is still the same execution of this. No, so we have two optional or two choices: contains object or this one. So it's up on you. No, if you are mastered with the looping, then you will be able to perform the same stuff as what is this method trying to execute. So muna siya class, no? Ang sa loop lang yun, dapat aware ka if what will be the objective of your execution, what is the objective of your declaring this kind of conditions. So dapat you are aware for that. You are leading your program to understand what will be the execution. Kay kani siya, gina-check man niya individually good kada container kung naaba jud si 15. And successfully nakita niya si 15 sa index 1. So that ends the that ends the execution of the program. Okay, so we are now in this part. So gamay na lang jud ni class. In Java, the list is called an array list. So this is actually combination of array and a list. So many programmers tend to combine different data structure. It is for achieving more convenient and more flexible execution of the program. Okay, naman siya mga data structure nga, they're only good at performing this and they're not good performing the others. And there are also data structures that kanisya na ano siya execution ng ani but the other is not. And kanisya na siya execution sa ing ani the other one is not. So they combine it in order to create a new data structure that will fulfill all the other execution of the program. So pwede siya mag-combine of mga data structure. So kani siya array list combination because array by default boring king array I can say because kung usaray mo na set nga size, mora gyud to siya permanently. No? So kung naay mga changes nga gusto nimo mahitabo himuon sa imo ang elements, especially kung pila ka number of elements ang ma-insert, so every now and then you have to visit your program and change the size, which is very inconvenient for the programmer or even the user of your program. No? So, yeah. We will now revealing how to construct this kind of program execution, which is the list. So how are we going to apply it on the program? So we have here an example, array list, my list equals to new array list. This is the declaration. We are importing packages in our Java libraries, no? So it is under, no? In Java, the list ADT is called an array list and it is located in Java util package. So you just simply need to import this package para na natin privilege mo gamit sa array list na data structure, which must be imported in order to use this data type. So as I mentioned, to create an array list, we can simply call a constructor from the array list class. Here is an example of creating an array list and storing it in a variable so that we can use it. So we create a variable or an object, my list, And array list function or methods or this package will grant this mylist na declaration to have a privilege to make use of these libraries or packages. So makagamit na tag package na array list because we declared it properly. We instantiated it in our program. So the above code allow us to store any kind of object in the array list. We can then use the array list add methods to add objects to the end of the list in the sequence as follows. So nana dayon ang ato ang execution class. Sa program na jud ni siya nga implementation. First, we have to import because that is the primary requirement to import the Java utility array list. Then also we have to declare the public class and the public static void main, and this one array list test program is my class name. So whatever will be your class name is also should be declared in your program. I know by default you are aware all of this naman kay you have done this in your programming one. Then in array list my list class, try to notice this one, the same execution as what we did here, that we are trying to give privilege of this variable my list to have an overall capability in using the package of array list in Java. So my list now has all of those privileges, especially that we initialize it like my list will be the new array list. So that's why every execution that we did here is we call my list instead of array list, no? Because array list is just a package or utility, and we need someone that will hold the privilege, no? Wala siya gonna bitong appointed officer to work with this privilege kung sa tao pa. Or let's say, siya ang manager para maka-perform og task ang ang mga other subordinates. So it works like that. So para ni class, my list that add hello, my list that add 25, my list that add new person, and my list that add new car. So all of this execution is acceptable because of our previous declarations, no? And all of this stuff will be stored now in our my list. So if I'm going to print all of this, I just simply invoke my list, which holds all of this value now. So we have here a representation for you to understand, no? And we have also here an explanation. So notice in the above code that we are adding a string, an in, and a person object, and a car object. So one good thing when using list is that you are not afraid on using multiple value with different data types. Bahalag integer na siya, bahalag float, bahalag boolean, or sa manggaling na siya. It is accepted in list or array list. So notice as well that at the top of the program, we imported Java utility array list because by default, we have to import that in order for us to execute the program without a problem. So this is necessary in order for Java to know where to find array list class and its methods. So this is what I am talking about. The output for the program is as follows, assuming that person and car are defined classes that do not have the string methods. So this is the output now. Hello 25 person A, B, B, D, F, I are 1. Car at A2, E, A1, 6. So let me explain why is it kung ani ang output instead person naman atong gi-store, no? Kaning hello and 25 class, we know that hello is a string, 25 is an integer, and it is not a problem for a list kay list can accept multiple data types naman. So as you notice nara si my list og mo ni ang mga value ni my list, di ba? So hello is under index 0, 1, 25 is under index 1, person is under index 2, and car is under index 3. What happened to the output of car and person is that a person is an object or a class, and a car is also a class. There are multiple person. There are multiple types of a person. It's either a student, an employee, or so on and so forth, no? And ang car po, daghan po siya type of car. No, pwede ka tong mga pila ka wheelers nga truck, four wheelers ba, so on and so forth. No, mga vehicles or so on sa manggaling. So that's why ang na-provide ani is the address of the class instead of a direct attribute or details of a person or details of a car. So if we store it in our list, expect that all of these classes or this list can have a possible access on whatever the details under the person class or the car class. So it's really challenging part. But in reality naman is that when we store value naman in our list, we can specify it directly. But for this example, just simply elaborating how list is flexible, the way that it can even store the address of each of the classes being declared in our list, no? Being stored in our list. So pwede na siya na execution. Now, do you have anything to ask? You may now raise your hand by simply clicking the raise hand button. Question, class? Type 1 if you don't have questions and we proceed and raise hand button. Okay, thank you. So no question daw po, no? I hope that's clear. And before we proceed with the others, Kanisha Dani, did you notice how ARI list looks when you print them out? So we have a question here. They show all the elements or items and the list separated by comma. So let's check. So this is true. Our value when we print the my list or our list is in this format, no? Hello, 25 person, comma, so on and so forth. In between square brackets, so naka-square bracket siya, class, because some other data structure uses parentheses, no? That will hold the elements. But for our list, it is enclosed with a square brackets. This is the general format for an array list that can hold any kinds of objects. However, it is highly recommended that we specify the type of object that we will be stored in the array list. We do this by specifying the type between this less than and greater than sign or symbol. Characters, no? Less than and greater than characters, just before the round bracket as follows. So, na siya'y, class, na siya'y parang it serves as a reminder for all the programmers that as much as possible, you have to declare the data types, no? So paraan yung array list object, my list equals yung new array list object, and they specify string and string for this. So pwede siya by default, you specify para for you as a programmer or even your other co-programmers understand the entire declaration proper, because at some point maybe others didn't really fully understand the script of your program because they don't have any idea of this implementation. So this is a guiding script for each of you when you create a program for the others to understand, especially in doing some maintenance of the code. So it is very helpful to follow the proper formatting in creating a program. So where are we now? I guess we can just simply skip this one because these are just additional info for a particular declarations. So same as this. Now, this will be our last page. Ayan. So we're down to our last page of our discussion. So here is an example that uses the get and the size methods class. No? Get and size methods. So before or earlier, I talked already about this, and let's apply it in a sample program. So my list is a new array list, which is the object, whatever object data type it is, same with this. And our first command is system.out.print my list and the size. So initially in this set of code or in this syntax, we are trying to check the size of our list, which is the my list. But since our program reads from top to bottom, therefore, as of now, since we didn't insert yet any element or elements, therefore our output is 0. Wala siya sulod, no? So mylist.add, so we will now invoking the add commands or the add methods, add hello, add 25, add new person, and add new car. So that will be stored in our mylist, the same thing as what you see here. So nga na ang representation niya kung sa illustration pa lang. Going back, if we print them by specifying if we print them by using get, you know that get actually didn't perform changes much in our list because we are just simply checking which element is under this index. So by ato na siyang gina-check kinsa man nga element aning index number. So by looking back in our sequential insertion of elements, we know that hello is under index 0, 25 is under index 1, new person class is under index 2, and new car class is under index 3. So we execute this one, get 0, the output is hello because 0 is under index 0. Hello is under index 0. And get 2 will have output person at add bf1 because it is under index 2. This one, 0, 1, 2. 4, we will receive an index out of bound exception error because in our program we only have 4 elements, and since our index starts with 0, therefore there is no index value in this index number. So wala tay values or wala tay element under index 4. So that is index out of bounds. Kaya itong ilang taon na, tama na index 3, which is the car. So the same process naman or the same declaration naman itong gibuhat. So that will lead to this index out of bounds exception error or warning. Now lastly, after we successfully inserted multiple elements in our list, we then check the size and we identify that our output is 4. Again, don't be confused with our size and index. Size is the natural counting of the elements inside our list, wherein the index is a memory address or address of our elements in our list, and it always starts with 0. So the counting for our index starts with the 0, and the counting of our size starts with 1. So I hope that will remain as your I hope you will gain that one as the knowledge, because in every program it will have that index and size. Index is first, it starts the counting from 0, and the size starts the counting from 1. So entirely that